So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining this session. This is going to be a tutorial, and we are going to show you how easy it is to deploy an enterprise blockchain stack using BTP Sextant and SUSE Rancher. So my name is Csilla Zsigri. I'm a VP of Strategy at BTP. BTP is a enterprise blockchain company, and my co-presenter is going to be our co-founder and CEO, Duncan Johnston-Watt. So first of all, I'm going to introduce the broader market, where the sort of landscape that we live and breathe every day. Then you will be able to see how our company fits into that broader landscape, as well as our flagship offering called Sextant. And then we are going to, Duncan is going to do a demo. So the DLT landscape, this is a vendor landscape. Essentially, it starts, with that computing infrastructure layer where essentially the nodes sit, whether we're talking about, on-premises, cloud, as well as, tools that, would help automate and deploy cloud native applications, such as Kubernetes that we extensively use. Then the next layer is that of the core distributed ledgers. I'm sure you've heard of that many times. This is the likes of Ethereum, as well as those sort of protocols that are more used in the enterprise space, such as Hyperledger projects, including Fabric, Sawtooth, Bezu, and so on. For now, we differentiate between permissionless, and hybrid protocols. Right now, companies are using a variety of these distributed ledgers, based on the experience they have, based on skills they have, based on sort of use case requirements and so on. But right now we are living in a multi-ledger world. I think I can say that. Then the next layer, I think, obviously DLT is not used on its own, and actually it's very powerful, and it's being used with other technologies, whether those are established ones or emerging ones. Like a very simple example would be when you have like a very traditional file system that you can make it decentralized by using a blockchain underneath. The next layer basically shows that again, as I mentioned, we are living in a multi-ledger world. At the end of the day, what you want to do is to be able, to interact and transact across, all sorts of ledger-based systems. So interoperability is key in this market, and it's a fragmented space. There are, many projects trying to solve that. For now, we'll see. I guess this is going to consolidate in the future, but right now there are a bunch of initiatives in this area, and it's not just about connecting different ledger-based systems, but also connecting to legacy systems, existing applications, and so on. Then I'm sure you heard about smart contracts and tokenization. Very important in this market. Smart contracts are essentially transaction protocols that sit on a distributed ledger or a blockchain, and they essentially embody the self-executing business logic of any type of application or business process. They essentially automate and formalize relationships between individuals, organizations, or even machines when it comes to IoT specific use cases. Then digital tokens, the tokenization of everything, different assets, needs no introduction. Those basically help improve the accessibility, the liquidity, and the efficiency of existing asset markets. Then, as you can see, there are many moving parts in this market. It's a complex technology, complex technologies, I might say. So both developers as well as the average user needs tools to be able to navigate all this. So that's what that layer represents. Also, there are plenty of business applications that companies are using, but you can enhance those applications with just putting a distributed ledger underneath, or introducing the use of smart contracts and so on. And then you can be on this stack. You can build, a wide range of multi-party applications. It can be an industry-specific application for, I don't know, for trade finance, or decentralized marketplaces where you can trade, I don't know, data or any type of assets, in-game collectibles, commodities, and so on. So as you can see on the site, you will find a few categories such as platforms, services, standards, and so on. So these are essentially all the organizations and businesses that help make this whole thing happen and basically facilitate for the end user organizations the creation of multi-party applications that take advantage of distributed ledger, smart contracts, and so on. As you've seen, it's not an easy thing to do, and this is actually where our company sits. So we are a platform, a player, and we take care of the managing and operating distributed ledger based networks. So this is BTP Sextant. I guess, our value proposition is essentially that we make it easy to create, these multi-party applications as you could see, and we take care of all the underlying technology infrastructure that you need, and then you can focus on your application, on your business logic, and you can you don't have to worry about that. The building blocks, and we do this by providing Sextant. So Sextant is essentially Kubernetes-native. It's a blockchain management and operation platform, or it's essentially a middleware. Sextant deploys and manages a variety of open source distributed ledger technologies, mostly permissioned and hybrid, and the community version of Sextant is available on the SUSE Rancher Marketplace. So Sextant doesn't only help the deployment of a blockchain-based network, but we are also, Sextant has its role higher up the stack. So in addition to distributed ledgers, Sextant can also simplify the deployment and management of, for example, of a decentralized file system or a document management system to protect critical information for your business. We also, provide a runtime environment for smart contracts, so which you can use to develop, specific applications. And Sextant also supports a ledger agnostic provenance system that actually is ours. It's called Chronicle. So as you can see, so this is the framework that I showed you at the beginning of the tutorial, and this is basically where you can see where we are active in the landscape. So it's just to summarize it, obviously we are taking extensive usage of Kubernetes. We are on the SUSE Rancher Marketplace. We do support a variety of open source distributed ledger protocols, such as Hapledger Sawtooth, Bezu, and also Fabric and Corda. Then we are in the sort of the information security space, through partnerships such as ProvenDB and Tachyon. Then we do support smart contract languages such as Digital Asset Holdings demo language, as well as WebAssembly. And as mentioned, we have this provenance system called Chronicle, and then you can use all these tools to develop specific multi-party applications for your business, as well as your partners and customers. So I guess now it's demo time. So thanks for listening, and hope it was useful. And now over to you, Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you, Csilla. Hello, everyone. First, I'm going to show you how to install our blockchain management platform Sextant on a Kubernetes cluster using SUSE Rancher. This is very straightforward now that the community edition of Sextant is available through the SUSE Rancher Marketplace. If you follow those QR codes to either our guest blog post on the SUSE website penned by Csilla, or a cookbook hosted by us, created by one of our DevOps engineers, Alex, you'll be able to follow those instructions. What I'm going to do is run through them online, and I'm going to start by logging into Rancher, which I've already done. And then this time I'm going to use our local Kubernetes cluster as the target for the Sextant deployment. Now, I should add, I did do one thing ahead of time, which if you look at the instructions, you're asked to do, which is to request the user credentials in order to actually install Sextant. So I did that ahead of this demo. But if you're doing this yourselves, just fill in your first name, last name, company name, email, and we will get the user credentials to you right away. Anyway, back to Rancher. So if I pick our local Kubernetes cluster, it's a 4-node cluster, you'll see. And if I go to the apps and marketplaces, and then I search for Sextant, indeed, there it is. So as one of SUSE Rancher's partners, we're delighted that Sextant is now available through their marketplace. So now if I select this, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this process, having installed other things within the SUSE Rancher ecosystem. But essentially, click Install, choose a name. We recommend a new namespace for this, so I'm going to go with Sextant as the namespace. You'll notice here it says it does not exist, so it will be created. Step on to next. And this is where I use the user credentials that I've previously requested and for convenience saved in LastPass. So you'll need these in order to essentially allow the Helm chart to pull down the Sextant images from our repo. In a future edition, this will be available through Docker Hub without this intermediate step. Now, here I could specify ingress settings. I could enable this, and I could, in fact, specify an external Postgres database should I wish to, in which case I'll need to provide the details. I'm going to stick with the defaults here, and I'm going to just click Install. And now, this is where our Helm chart, with the help of the SUSE Rancher Marketplace, does its thing and installs Sextant for us, which it will do in a matter of a few seconds. So there we are. Took about 25, 30 seconds in total. Now you'll notice that having successfully installed Sextant, you're also asked to do two things. One is to obtain the initial username and password. So the idea behind this is this has been created for you. And so if we go over to and this is where you need the Kubernetes command line. So I'm going to switch to my new namespace, Sextant. Do kube-get all. You can see there is a running instance of Sextant. It's been up and running for 57 seconds. So I'm going to request the initial user, which is admin, and the initial password. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, if I go back to here, the other thing we're going to do, since we aren't using an ingress, is we're actually going to create a port forward in order to allow us to access the Sextant Community Edition from our browser. So I'll save that. And you'll notice if I go back here and refresh that, so Sextant is not currently being served. So come back to here. And away we go. So now if I come back to here and refresh that, there we have our brand new Sextant Community Edition. So remember what I said about logging in and using that saved password. So we'll come back to here. We'll grab that. This is something you should save somewhere securely. Pop that in. and we can log in. Don't need that. Not now. Okay, so in the course of about 5 minutes, more or less, we've now, to recap, installed Sextant on a Kubernetes cluster using the SUSE Rancher Marketplace, and the instructions, as I mentioned, are available through this guest blog post. So pretty much everything I've talked about here, and also available via a cookbook. So this is the SUSE Rancher cookbook that Alex created for us. So I'll stop there, and when we return, I'll then look at actually utilizing Sextant in order to create a DLT stack. Hello again. So for the second part of this tutorial, we're going to use the BTP Sextant instance that we previously deployed using SUSE Rancher Marketplace, take that and use it to deploy a DLT stack. So to recap, at the end of the part one of this tutorial, we'd reached the point where we had Sextant running, accessing it through port forward, and we'd saved our admin and password combination. So this code will take you to the read the docs for Sextant, which covers the concepts like clusters and deployments in much greater detail. But for now, let's go and look at our running BTP Sextant edition. So here we are. It's the Community Edition. Log in again. Note that I've saved the password, admin password combination. So when I log in, you'll notice this is a vanilla Sextant environment. So there are no clusters and there are no deployments. So deployments run on clusters. Clusters are imported in much the same way that you import clusters into Rancher itself. So in order to do that, you need to run a couple of scripts. One to create a service account. I've already done that in this case. And one to extract the credentials. And once we have those credentials, we can fill in the API server, access token, and certificate authority. However, there is one caveat. We're going to use local. So we're going to use the same cluster that we've actually installed Sextant on. But what we'll do is we'll actually use the official EKS endpoint and not the Rancher proxy. You'll see what I mean in a second. So if I come here and clear and run this again, so I'm going to run get values. And so we're going to ignore this API server in favor of the underlying EKS cluster API endpoint. But everything else we're going to pull through. So the token will pop in here, and the certificate authority will pop in here. So this is essentially enabling Sextant to now talk to that cluster and in fact deploy, in this case, a DLT stack. So click activate. Okay, so we've now added it. We can see a very simple summary view of the cluster as a result. So as you can see, it's an EKS cluster running an EU West 1. But what's more interesting is to actually add a deployment to it. So at the moment, we've got a very slimmed down set of choices with the Sextant Community Edition. We're going to add support for, on an evaluation basis, a number of DAML options. DAML is a smart contract language, so DAML on Besu, DAML on Sawtooth, and so on. But for now, let's choose Sawtooth. So again, very high level. I just want you to provide a deployment name. So let's say Sawtooth deployment. Let's see, I've done this before, and we'll say Sawtooth namespace. So what this is going to do is it's going to go off and we'll accept all the other defaults and actually deploy an instance of Sawtooth. So Sawtooth is a distributed ledger network. The default configuration is a 4-node DLT. So if we look at this, so we now have, it's just bringing up the 4 nodes. So there are the pods, there are the services, and there are the persistent volume claims. And it's quite interesting to go and look at this in Rancher. And so if we look at this in Rancher, you can now see that in the background, a number of images have been pulled across. In this case, we've done this before, so they're already present on the machine. And we now have a new sawtooth deployment. So if I come back to Sextant and go to the cluster view, and now if I want to look at the deployments on our, what we're calling local being the Rancher name for this cluster, it's not local to my machine, you can see that we now have a running sawtooth deployment. We could also add a Hyperledger Besu. So we'll call that Besu deployment. We'll give it a Besu namespace. And again, we're just going to accept, actually we're not going to accept the defaults. We're going to actually specify here the standard storage class. And there's no need for image pool secrets. So click deploy. And now we're spinning up a second DLT stack, this time one built on Hyperledger Besu rather than Hyperledger Sawtooth. If we go back to Rancher, now you can see that it's busy running that Helm chart. Come back to here. It's going to take a while, setting up the PVCs and so on. Once it's done that, we should have 2. There we go. So again, I can look at this. And so the deployment has been initiated, and now these Besu nodes are all coming up one after another. So that's really it in terms of the very quick demo showing how we can deploy not one, but in fact 2 DLT stacks using BTP Sextant. It only really remains for me to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much to Csilla for setting the scene so eloquently earlier. And also a big thanks to Alex, who has done a lot of the work behind the scenes to make this possible, adding Sextant to the SUSE Rancher Marketplace. So big thanks there to Alex. Okay, and with that, I'm going to stop the recording, and we should be able to answer any questions, or indeed, if you want to follow up, then just get in touch with us. You can visit BTP at www.blockchaintp.com. Look forward to speaking to you in the not too distant future. Thanks very much.